before the closing remarks, I have the pleasure to introduce you Eris Adhami from OSCE, presence in Albania. And let me, yes, thank you so much for sharing the slides. I leave the floor to you for presenting the e-legislation project, where is involved also Professor Schefbeck intensively, strongly, as a consultant of the best practices of e-legislation.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Gunther. I am Eris Adhami. I work as the National ICT Officer here in OSCE presence in Albania. And I'm going to talk to you today about the e-legislation project. I'm sure that you have seen before this slide, but I couldn't find any other way to present e-legislation in 2 words. So e-legislation is not more than a project aiming to modernize system and workflows of the Albanian legislative process to help citizens access free and timely legislation and legal information. So how is the current situation in Albania legislative process? 2 of the main systems used in the Albanian legislative process are e-Actet and e-Parliament. Both are some kind similar, but also both have some different uses. For example, e-Actet is used by government for preparation and execution of the government session, while e-Parliament is used by Parliament for the preparation and execution of the legislative procedure. They are both based on the same technology, Microsoft SharePoint, and their main purpose is to be used as document management systems, and they produce and circulate mainly docs or PDF document formats. Let me show in the next slide how the documents flow in e-Actet and e-Parliament. The initial draft law is first created in and by the ministries. Each of ministries submits their draft law for approval to the Council of Ministers, and this process is handled electronically by e-Actet. After the approval of the Council of Ministers, the draft law or the bills are sent manually by email, CDs or in hard copy to Parliament for further processing. Then the draft starts to be processed by Parliament, starting with the committees, and the last stop is the plenary session. This process electronically is handled by the e-Parliament process. In the legislative, during the life cycle of the draft law, there are many documents created and many versions of documents produced, like draft law, explanatory reports, committee reports, amendments, etc. So what are the issues or the problems of the current systems? In the beginning of the e-legislation process, with the help of Gunther, we evaluated the current situation and found some critical issues, which are mainly the solutions or the system taking part in the legislative process are island solutions, meaning that are not connected with each other. Another issue were inconsistent format of the documents produced and that are part of the legislative process as different formats, so leading to multiplication of formatting work and deviation from the drafting rules. Different legal status. Laws are a complex process of interaction and coordination of the various players involved in the legislative process. The quality of the law, therefore, greatly depends on the organization of the legislative process and cooperation among these players. Inability to search an unidentified version. Content of the current documents is unreadable and unsearchable by machine. Also, author, editors, and contributors of documents are unknown. There was a lack of time dimension. Currently, it is impossible to determine the content of a document at different points in time. So after a wide consultation with around 200 participants and around 500 minutes of discussion, Albanian parliament selected Akomantoso as a certified international standard to be used in the Albanian legislative process. But why Akomantoso? In Akomantoso, each element of the document is tagged and clearly identified. Akomantoso offers direct access by the IT tools and machines. Text of the documents marked up in Akomantoso is fully searchable, and Akomantoso offers cross-reference inside the documents. Having the whys, I'm going to switch to the how. So how Akomantoso will improve legislation? The first is interoperability. By harmonizing of legal documents formats, we will be able to connect system of legislative process so they can interoperate. They can interchange data, they can use common tools, and also they can work on the shared templates. Open source tool development. As an open standard based on XML, Akomantoso will encourage the open source software community to develop and improve even more the system of the legislative process. Also, by using Akomantoso on the XML standards, avoid reliance on any platform and dependence on any particular software or application, like we are now based on Word or Acrobat Reader, etc. It will improve searchability. By integrating metadata into documents, legislative acts will be searchable, not just by date, title, or number, like it's for the moment in Albania, but also by many individual terms. We'll have consolidated legislation. Applying Akomantoso will result in consolidated legislation, which will be generated in real time without the need of manual compiling. Public access and transparency. As a result of all of the above, so open source, searchability, and consolidated legislation, Akomantoso will facilitate public access and increase transparency. I'm going now to talk a little about the roadmap. So first, we divided the legislation in 4 main phases. The first main phase was the evaluation, finalizing and deciding Parliament that Akomantoso will be the standard, the legal standard that will be used in the legislative process in Albania. We are now at the end of phase 2, which, with the help of Monica and the University of Bologna, we are localizing Akomantoso to the Albanian environment, which we have decided to call it Akomantoso for Albania. After that, we are going to start the marking up of the current documents and legislative acts in Akomantoso. Phase 3 will be mainly with the development of interfaces to connect EACT, the Parliament, and all other systems that are part of the legislative process. We'll build a search engine for the consolidated law for internal and public access. And the phase 4 will be the digitalization of parliamentary documents and archives using Akomantoso, and also incorporate them to the e-legislation framework. Thank you. Now I'm going to give the floor to Monica to talk about the localization process. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you so much, Eris. I share my screen for continuing, and I start with the methodology. So you can see my screen, I guess. Can you see well? Can you see?
Yes, I can.
Okay, yes. So the methodology for the first phase is quite well known inside of our project. So we study first of all the legal system of the country. So we collected the basic legal tests like constitution, and also we learn a lot about the type of the form of the government and the history of the Republic of Albania. So then we have studied a lot of the legislative workflow of the law making process. After these, we have collected the existing metadata coming from the Gazette, and we discovered that there is also a taxonomy in the current official Gazette online. And using this taxonomy, we have modeled URI using a Accomantoso naming convention. And then a very great challenge was to have the analysis of the linguistic aspect of Albanian language. So we hired some students in our university that know very well Albanian, and we have a great relationship as Italy with Albania, especially in Ravenna, because of the larger community of the foreign students in Ravenna come from Albania, and there is a great liaison between Ravenna and Albania. So this is a great, let me say, great advantage, because we used this knowledge of the territory in order to analyze the linguistic aspect. Then we detected the regularity inside of the document under the linguistic point of view, divided also by historical periods, and then we mapped inside of Accomantoso. We built also a proof of concept using real documents, and in this occasion we had customized the software, the existing software, for help us to create the Accomantoso files. So this is what we intended to do. That is a mix, as said before by Iris, between the connection exactly between the parliamentary documentation and lawmaking system in the parliament and the Gazette. So how to create the bridge between the different kind of documentation produced inside of a lawmaking system, but also with the Gazette. And so we have created this proof of concept, collecting all the documents concerning a particular case, coming from the bill, then the report and the executive report, the debate of the assembly, the reaction of this debate, the relation, finally, so the transcript of the assembly, the vote report, and then the final law emitted by the Gazette. And we have consolidated also some documents and connected the document with the Parliamentary Act. So this is a pilot case that we have done. We have identified the different types of documents: legislative act, publication documents of the Gazette, parliamentary documents, but also judgment. I have no space, and for the phase one, we focused on this, but we have one of the aim was to design since now all the URI in consistent manner for all the legal information. So we have built also the URI for decree, for administrative documents, for judgment, for case law, for court reports, and so far, in order to have a larger picture, not limited to a fragment of the legal information, but to have, since now, at least for the URI, a consistent methodology for all the kind of legal document in the country. Because one of the goals, as Ari said, is to disseminate a methodology in all the actors involved in the creation and the maintainment of the legal documentation. And obviously the URI is an example. For the law, we have produced, thanks also to the help of the OSCE and the Parliament, the Assembly of Albania, the taxonomy of subtype of documents used also inside of the Gazette. So we synchronize the ontologies and taxonomy. And we have in this case of law, two kind of nomenclature, because we have two different historical periods. The first historical period use a sequential number since the beginning of the Republic, and this methodology of numbering of the law was used until 2011. or 2012 better. And from the 2012, we enter in operation another naming process that take the number of the act sequentially inside of the year. And so we needed to distinguish these to creation of the naming convention, and also the parsing takes in consideration these according to the temporal interval. No problem at all in the expression and the manifestation. And these are a case law, as I said. So we have a debate, a bill, the minutes, first of all, that introduce the bill, the debate in the assembly concerning the bill, and the final voting. And we didn't encounter the particular problems. So we have a classic serialization of the act, preface, preamble, body, and really speaking, we didn't encounter the problematics also with inline and metadata, and also signature and dates so far. But what we encountered is problematic is the use of alphabet. The alphabet of Albanian language is composed by 36 characters, and we have in the annex the name of the language are not so longer nominated and numbered with a Arabic number, but with a letter. And also the new insertion is nominated with the letter, with the slash. So we have a mixed tradition between, let me say, close to Italy and also close to other tradition. And this is amendment. This is a more, let me say, difficult to serialize, because you can see the structure is very changeable and flexible, and for sure also the organization of the work inside of the offices should change if you consider that some last minute modification are done on the top of the paper. You can see manually with the marker. And as I said before, the language itself is closer to the Latin, and so we need to have a context analytic analysis of the nouns, because we have several let me say, formological differences according to the role of the nouns inside of a sentence, like in Germany maybe. And we have also the problem of the alphabetic. So what is the problem of alphabetic letter? The alphabet is composed, as I said, by 36 letters, but we have a letter composed by 2 characters. And so we need to make a parsing supported by also machine learning in order to detect if, for instance, RR is a double character, meaning a double letter, or if it means a unique letter that is composed by 2 characters. Or you can see Z, Z, and H, last letter, is a unique letter inside of the alphabet. But as you can understand, especially in the list of the points, you can have a trouble in order to distinguish especially when there is no correct or clear punctuation, when the letter of the number of the partitions ends and when the text start. So this is what we are doing now to understand how to improve our parsing, our library, in order to detect these. Another goal that we had was to map, we have mapped the database of the metadata existing in the informatics system and many databases of the assembly into, first of all, Accomantoso. And in case Accomantoso is not enough expressive, we have used on undo ontology, especially for modeling the people, the member parliament's status, and when the people vote, to which party belongs, and so to assign correctly the political meaning of this event of voting. So if in the hand the assembly want to have a query, give me all the voting in favor of this bill made by this member of parliament, when this member of parliament belongs to a party, I would like to have this information is close to the text of a voting report, and also to have all the information like citation and connection with the workflow of this lawmaking procedure. So this is an additional information that we use undo ontology, but we have even in any case a link inside of Accomantoso in order to have this information in place inside of the document. And this is a concrete case that I can show you, and this is a bill. After the bill, or contextually, depends for the situation, we have the relation, so the explanation of the motivation of why the bill is proposed, and also the committee work with the modification or simply the motivation of some decisions. So we have modeled the workflow inside of each document, connecting each other's the steps. So we have the first steps made by the parliament. There is a presentation of the bill, and then we have the relation of the bill connected, then the commission report, and finally the voting. And the voting is one of the format, is not only one. This is one of the format of the voting report. We have others similar, coming from nowadays from automatic electronic voting system. And the challenge is to connect these informations coming from the internal databases. You can see the name of the person, of a member parliament, and we can see also the group of the party which belongs to people, and the code inside of the record of the assembly and the information system. So the main idea is to collect this information and to create a network of information in order to follow in a transparent manner who vote what during the lawmaking process. And for doing that, this is a fragment of the voting document. You can see for the part of the structure is very easy. We have a paragraph and the content, but the relevant part is that I isolated the quantity. The quantity is not simply a number, but we have associated the legal meaning of this vote. And the first one is concerning the presence inside of the assembly. The second one is how many votes against the presence, and which one, who vote yes and who vote no, and who abstained to vote, and the final result. So inside of the text, we wanted to detect that there is relevant information for the transparency and for create a report, also statistical and visual, in order to simplify the relationship with the people. And this is a voting metadata inside of analysis. So in the metadata part, so we qualify these. You can see the ID. The ID are quantity 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in this part we can qualify with ontology concerning the voting. So this is a link of the ontology, light ontology, and but we have the possibility in metadata to say something more precise concerning the voting system. So we can say that we have a quorum, we have the possibility to say that is a counting vote, and we have a counting vote for positive, for negative, for abstaining people. And this is a qualification, semantically speaking, of the information put inside. And in case in case we have also, in case the vote is transparent, we can also connect people with the kind of vote. Not in this case, that is a summary we can see, and not assigned people by people, but in case the form of voting is individual and transparent, not secret, we can connect also the people to each vote and to create a mapping of this information. So this is a more, rather than to track changes, but also to connect another valuable part of Commentoso, that is the more connected with the democracy, the transparency, and to communicate to the people, the common people, what happened inside of the assembly itself. So we have created, let me, I don't know if you can see my screen again. Can you see?
Yes.
I can move this. I don't know why. Okay. By the way, so this is the proof of concept that we made, and the proof of concept produce a portal, and the portal is composed by two parts that are communicating each other, even if they are belonging to different institutions. One is the Gazette, and one is the Assembly. And so to produce in the future these kind of information that are related to, and clicking on these, I can immediately navigate the Parliamentary Act, but the more sophisticated issue is about the searchability, and I can navigate the searchability in all the material stored inside of this portal, and not divided in two different portals like now. But it's not a problem of portal. We can have also different portals, but to have interoperability between the data format and the document format. So in this case, I navigate, as I said, the voting page. This is a fragment, obviously, and you can see also the XML, and you can navigate exactly the workflow, the parliamentary analysis. So we are now trying to connect the parliamentary information, the workflow information, with the Gazette and the Act. And here you can see the part of the voting. And later on, you can see also the person. So if in case the voting is individual recorded, I can reach this information close to the people. And so I can ask, give me all the vote, positive vote to this bill concerning this party or these people when the people belongs to this party. Okay, and so I lose my portal. Okay, this, and then I would like to show obviously also the Gazette, and the idea is to navigate the Gazette. This is a an act that modified the Constitution, and these are two versions of the Constitution of the Republic of Albania. And again, you can see the classic timeline for navigating and also the modification made in the articles. So this underlined part is a part where, and in case I can also navigate the referendum and other documents concerning the Parliamentary Act. And you know, also the possibility to check the differences like the FIO and the portal, so we can offer to the end user and the citizen, but also the legislator, exactly where the modification occurred version by version. So what is the goal in this exercise? First of all, to check if a commentoso is good enough for the legal tradition of Albania and if there are necessary new elements. For now, we are using the classic vocabulary, but we are defining guidelines, so AKN4AL. And then the second goal is to check the linguistic aspects and to understand how much the linguistic aspect can be managed using parsing, and so to help people in the future to automatically mark up the knowledge. And thirdly, we wanted to connect the Parliamentary Act with the Gazette in a unique interoperable framework in order to detect more knowledge rather than only the Parliamentary Act in one side and the Gazette in another side. So I interrupt my connection and I'm here. If you have questions, I'm very happy to answer. Okay, John. Yes, it's a big project, but we are proceeding step by step in the implementation, but with a large vision in order to synchronize everything. And then another goal of the project is also to create the building competencies inside of the stakeholders, including universities. I met people coming from the university when I visited Tirana, and also the lawyers, and they are really a genuine ready and enthusiastic to pass to the digitalization. So, do you have other questions? Aris, there is I guess, a question for you from Cecile. How are you also involved with citizen? From my understanding, the categories that we want to involve are universities, public administration, civil servants, and lawyers for now, in order to create the stakeholders' competencies to manage these, but I leave the floor to Aris to answer.
Yeah, adding what you said, we have also made the consultation with the NGOs, lobbyists, and things like that, and they also were eager to see in action the Acomantoso on e-legislation.
So taking consideration that as University of Bologna, we also have tools for collecting the common John comments. We are working with the PhD students to analyze the common comments to the bill, for instance, in public review, that is quite common in part of the transparency process of the lawmaking system. Because what is missing now is analysis of these comments in organized way, so to classify by arguments using the theory of argumentation that is a part of the legal theory. So we are now experimenting these. We take the comments are transformed in a commentoso. We try to connect with the cited part of the law, and then we try to classify using sentiment analysis in order to detect or arguments, counter arguments. And the idea is to visualize this argument, counter argument in a graph, and to permit the stakeholders and decisions makers to navigate this, not like a thread of Facebook, of Instagram, of Twitter that is a mess, but by concrete similarity between the same comments elaborated in different manners. So suppose that 10 citizens express the same concept, we try to make a cluster and to understand what is the core message of this cluster, and to propose to the decision maker as a cluster. So this is the idea that we intend to do in our work, not for the Albanian, but we are working on that with the PhD students. Because nowadays there is a great pressure to collect comments by the citizen and to involve and engage them in the lawmaking process, but no tools enough smart in order to analyze and propose in a concise manner to the decision maker the output. So I started my PhD thesis on these 25 years ago, with a very famous project of municipality of Bologna called Hyperbole. And we started with the very poor technologies to classify the mails to submit to the major. And my piece of the PhD thesis was exactly that, to try to classify the mail addressed to the major for bunch of topics in favor or in disagreement with some proposal of the major. Now we have amazing technologies nowadays, and this is really what we want to go using these tools, standards, and advanced technologies. I think that using AKN4AL, it's a great, we use it. There is a portal in US, very well done by an association that are producing bill and collecting comments from common citizens, and we detected this, but also we tried to take also the public review of the European Parliament as a pilot case of this project that I mentioned, in order to classify and cluster the comments, because read all the comments is hard, especially if you have, for instance, the comments of a proposal of Artificial Intelligence Act. Is a hard task. But if the decision maker is supported by a system that can pre-classify and cluster the main comments, there are two great benefits. First, if I am a citizen, that I have a clear idea and I post only one comment, but very dense of concept and arguments, this post, this piece of text is equally valid of many posts without written nothing. Just, okay, I agree and disagree of what. So one of the main problem in the social media now, that the followers and numbers and the number of the post create a great hype, and the people with a very enthusiastic approach, let me say, or very aggressive in the participation, or very active in the participation, pop up in the statistics, and who is very expert with the great and dense ideas, but post only one comment, disappear. So because it's overflowed by the others silly comments. So the idea started from this, how to put in a good light the arguments, apart the number of the posting and number of the characters, but on the basis of a solid argument, and how classify for offer to the decision maker a better view that is not exhaustive, obviously, and not precise totally, but is a good starting point to entering deep in the detail. So this is what we are, on the basis of Accomatoso, doing with our researches. Okay, so I think we have closed the presentation, if there are no other questions. And it's always a great, really pleasure to listen you every year, because every year we can discover more details, more applications, how to use Accomatoso, and also like as a legal document technical committee, if you have a request, please send to me or the official list. There is an open list called the list of comments, open to everybody and not limited to the member of Oasis, where you can post anytime your request to improve the schema and the elements of the vocabulary. So thank you so much for the participation, and if you need more information, contact me or any other expert that participated in this day. Finally, let me say that every year we have these, and so we can prepare the next event for the future. Thank you to everybody. Thank you for the participation, and see you soon.
Thank you.